So thank you for coming on the show. I'm really excited that you were able to join. You'll be my second episode. And the Right Forensics podcast is now officially going to be called Uncover, because I don't know if you saw the survey that I put out on LinkedIn. Yeah. And so
That was the winner.
was the winner. So it's called Uncover, and it kind of means uncovering, the forensics behind the work that we do, because I think it's fundamental for the evidence integrity, so that everything downstream can be trusted, but also uncovering ourselves, right? And what's behind the persona, the professional persona, who's actually underneath, because we're all real people. We're humans at the end of the day. So maybe I start with you, Emily. Tell me a little bit about your firm, how long you've been there, and how you got to where you're at today.
Sure, I would love to. So I met Akerman, and I'm based in South Florida. Next year will be my 20th year as an employee of.
Wow.
Yeah, I started off as a junior paralegal. It's my first paralegal gig, and kind of climbed the ranks and ended up being the senior paralegal on a decent sized litigation team. We did products liability and medical device defense work, mass torts, MDLs, lots of like high volume paper, and
Paper, what's that?
it was paper at one time. And we had a large mass tort that we started receiving emails from a client that were related. And the client was like attaching emails to emails and sending them to us and saying, here's this information you need. My boss at the time was like, put these emails in the DMS and create a spreadsheet and track all the information, who it was to and from, and the date and the subject. And, I was like manually creating a load file. And hyperlinked said emails to said spreadsheet. And I got to like line 10,000. And I said, no more. I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I like to say I staged a coup, and I managed to get this case into relativity. It was my first foray into Ediscovery.
Nice.
I loved it. And then we had an associate on the team who had a lot of knowledge and the background knowledge in it, and kind of took over the ESI portion of all this litigation. And we worked really well together. And these cases were, we were using outside providers for hosting, and the bills were in the millions of dollars. And he said to me one day, we could do this ourselves instead of sending all of this work out. It was like, that's really interesting. Tell me more. And so I think it was about maybe 2 years worth of time discussing this, pitching it to the firm. We finally got the green light.
Yeah.
In 2019, we established our own, full service, end-to-end e-discovery services solution that we primarily service firm clients, but we also have direct clients too, corporations, small law firms that don't have, the acumen to do it themselves. And so that's where we are today. So I left my paralegal role and I became the litigation support manager for the firm, because that was an open seat that needed to be filled, and they put it under the eDiscovery umbrella. And so now I help to run that department and also provide litigation support to the firm.
That's awesome. And I want to get into a little bit of the end-to-end nature of your services, but I want to talk to you, Karen, and ask you the same question. Where are you at, and how do you get to where you're at today?
Well, I'm actually grateful to be at Ackerman as well. I just started there last year, so I haven't quite reached the same milestone as Emily with 20 years, but I've been in the space for several years. I always say truly by osmosis. One of my best friends is part of a family in the DC area that started Driven years ago.
Okay.
So I was on the vendor side first, and just always really close to them. Finally relented and started working with Driven several years ago. And of course, they were, I guess there was a merge after that. I stuck it out for about 14 months there, and did everything from RFPs to the CLE program. And when I say osmosis, I mean when you're running through 400 questions for an RFP and you're responsible for doing the first pass, you kind of start dreaming about this stuff, I guess.
Yeah. They could be pretty onerous. That's why.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. It was my job and responsibility to kind of get everything answered in a timely fashion and put it in a nice bow and then send it back out. So I've seen so many different, gamuts of the e-discovery world, whether it be working, directly with sales reps, and now coming over to Akerman on the law firm side. It's much different, but I really do enjoy it. My title, I guess, technically is e-discovery solutions manager.
Okay.
I was brought on with this department. We have a great, 12, I guess there's 12 of us now.
Yeah.
And we all work very well together. I think for me, I am very client-centric as well as
That's really nice. Yeah.
Akerman attorney-centric.
Yeah.
So my goal is always to set others up for success.
Yeah.
So, we've recently, as you know, we're now in Dallas, but we've been kind of traveling around to the other offices and gleaning from the partners. Yeah.
It's like a road show that you're on.
Get an idea.
So is the tour internal between the law firm offices, essentially, and get them kind of familiar with what the services are?
So we talk to these people over Zoom and email all day long, but and you get to like, hey, you don't look like your picture. That's nice to meet you. Or you do look like.
You're not 2 inches tall, right? Yeah. It is. And I think the internal marketing component is just as important as the external one. How do you balance the two? Because I see you guys mostly on the conference circuit. Right. That's where we've become friends, right? Speaking on panels and just socializing at the conferences. And apparently the firm deems it important for you to do both. How do they, how do you get permission, essentially, for other people at firms that want to go out there and do similar types of world tours and market services and promote their firm's brand in addition to really boosting your own personal brand, I think is important too. So how do you get that kind of permission from the law firm?
Sure. I think, truthfully, Karen said it best. We're really blessed to be affiliated with Ackerman. They are very gracious and provide us with, a pretty long leash to do what we think is necessary. I get the pleasure of working on budgeting every year. So I build all of this into the budget. Where we need to attend this conference and make this office visit and do this, charitable event to boost, our profile. And so we outline it a year in advance. Right. Here's what we want to do. We present it, and if our budget gets approved, then we go do these things.
Yeah. So coming up with a yearly plan and being very specific about what you want to do, I think helps everyone understand, right, the value.
Here we hone it a little bit better. So, we're like, okay, we need to focus less on e-discovery conferences, as fun as they are. We're all talking the same language in an echo chamber. We need to focus on other industries. What industries should we focus on and tackle those kind of events?
Because e-discovery is kind of like these e-discovery conferences are opportunities to learn, right? But are your buyers actually at those conferences? Is there an opportunity to get clients at e-discovery firms? Or you just, for me, it makes sense because I'm a forensic professional. So I can sell services to e-discovery buyers. And I love e-discovery people, right? I love our industry and our tribe. How do you reach your customer base with this strategy? Or is it a different strategy altogether?
For me, I think I'm a little unconventional in some of this. Like, I think
you sure are?
Well, yeah. I think people immediately think of ROI, and I think the way that I define ROI is very different than some of your top CEOs who are worried about the revenue aspect of it.
Sure.
But for me, it's like expanding your networks, really truly being relational with folks and getting to know them well. So, there are so many benefits in going to these conferences, even some of the e-discovery ones, and there are times where we've attended but not even gone to sessions. We just go to to see folks and to strengthen our partnerships, etc. And for me, ROI isn't always a transaction that's coming to the door. It's, hey, wow, they do e-discovery at Ackerman and they have quite a great group, and we may not need them, but I know someone that does, and maybe down the road, they'll be mentioning us elsewhere. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's a long game, really, I think.
I agree. And I'm very, sorry to put it out there, but Simon Sinek is one of my faves. So it's the infinite, mindset, I guess, more so than the finite. And for me, what makes me tick too is constantly being challenged and learning. So it's that continual learning piece, being able to go and get my hands dirty at, the conference in September when I can actually go in and do the workshop and put my hands on some of the stuff that we're selling, right? And being able to better understand it. And that's what's going to not only educate me, but also give me more passion to want to, for me, it's always helping folks. That's what fills my bucket. So how can I help them?
That's awesome. So for the end-to-end services, people define that differently. Some people map it to the EDRM. Is that what you consider? Yeah. And so if you go as far left as, I assume you do the advisory part of this with the information governance, starting at that point.
Yeah. That's, I think, what kind of makes us a little more unique. So we're a law firm. So we can provide the legal advice, and starting at the beginning with, consulting on preservation holds and data mapping and, all of that stuff up until the part that you then start to collect, information, and then through the actual discovery process of review and production. And then because we also have litigation support in general, as part of our group, we move it all the way through presentation, trial.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So do you plan on doing like hot seat services for corporations too? I mean, for other you wouldn't do it for other law firm necessarily.
That part is pretty much remains internal. But we're a lean team, so we can't do every trial.
Right.
So we do have some really good partnerships too.
Okay.
Can help with overflow. One thing we do not do is forensics. We have taken a very, strong stance that we feel as a law firm, we need to create a little space between the forensic capture of information and receiving it and then producing it. So.
And why is that? Is it that because of the testifying part of it, where you might be called to defend a methodology and you want kind of a arm's length distance from that? Okay.
And it's not so much that we'd be afraid to testify. It's why even raise a suspicion habitually, like, are you collecting to your own benefit? So by using an independent service to do the collection, it removes that suspicion.
And since this is a forensics podcast, where do you see a lot of the collections trending, from, physical devices to cloud to on-site versus remote, or kind of bypassing forensics altogether with direct connectors these days to software platforms where they're going straight to the source? And I always wonder about the defensibility of that and who would actually, testify to the integrity of those collections if it came to it, right? So
it's definitely less is more, as you go on, like the less invasive you have to be, the less time that it takes, the less information you have to collect or better from the custodian's perspective. We still send out those remote kits from risk time. Yeah.
And do you have the kits? Like actually, okay. You partner. Yeah. Makes sense. Yep.
But I facilitate. I'm the forensic facilitator.
Okay. So you play that role?
So
okay.
I'm determining what type of a collection needs to be done based on what it is we're looking for, and I'll, determine, do we need to send a kit? Can we just go into the cloud? No, can we go in and pull down stuff from Box, or, we'll do basic.
So you will evaluate and the need for external help versus kind of the direct convenience of doing it yourselves, right? Especially if you don't need that kind of scrutiny around some of these cloud data sources, right? Karen, tell me a little bit about the geographic scope in which the firm operates. Is it, a region? Is it national? Is it global?
For now, we're national.
Okay.
So if I recall, we have close to 25 offices over the United States. We have about 750 attorneys.
Oh, okay.
So from, South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, to like New York, LA, Chicago. We have quite a big footprint, I think. And as you probably already know, we're an AMLA 100 firm.
Yep.
So yeah, we finally, I guess after, that big episode in 2020, they decided this past year to bring back the partners retreat. So that was a really great way to kind of all be in one spot at one time.
Yeah.
And be totally overwhelmed with trying to meet everyone and really make an impact. But it was a really special time that happened probably a month after I started. So I was fortunate to be able to go to that. But yeah, it really does make you see in front of you just how large Akerman is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other stops during the winter of this year? Or are you winding down and then preparing for 2025? What is the
We've actually joked about, wrapping a Sprinter van and taking our tour cross country.
yeah,
But I mean, obviously the likelihood of that happening.
having some decals on the side?
Right.
And come to think of it, does your unit within Ackerman have a name?
Akerman Ediscovery Services.
Okay.
We're considered a PS. Yeah, I guess we're considered a practice group to a degree, kind of somewhere in between department and practice group. It's kind of like if you go on the Ackerman website, we look like a practice group on paper. I don't know what we're considered exactly, but
And what is the firm's stance on social media? Since I'm a big social media guy, and now that I started my own company, I've kind of, have free reign. But do you have some flexibility to do social media?
I mean, as personally,
Yeah.
I've never been told I can't do,
Okay.
whatever. And the firm has a pretty robust social media team. And
Okay.
if we have an event or we have something where,
They'll promote you. Yeah. But I think you build most of your personal brand through speaking, I'm guessing, at conferences.
Yeah, I really enjoy, that speaking circuit when I'm given the opportunity. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It was like a personal goal of mine to be a better public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to force myself, I was like, that's what we're going to do. So, I've also done a lot of like web hosted conferences as well as live conference work. I think the Masters Conference is an awesome opportunity for people that are interested in giving themselves a chance to speak, because it's, it's defined, it's small, it's one day, it's a pretty intimate group. They give you a lot of leeway on what you might want to speak about.
Yeah.
And, so
that's where I got my start too. And they come to you. And the whole concept is that you come when you're there in your vicinity or in your city, and you don't have to travel to them. And, most of the attendees are also speakers. So it's a great little group of thought leadership there. And so do you do any speaking, Karen, or how do you get your brand out there and connect with colleagues and clients?
Right. I don't do much speaking. I do a lot on the backside. I am the best hype woman you'll ever have. So I tend to pimp out my colleagues like Emily and a few others, and just always look for opportunities.
I see. Right.
Yeah. And then just on the backside of things too, again, what fills my bucket is being a nurturer and helping.
Yeah.
So I do some volunteer work.
That's great.
So I do some stuff with different organizations.
Yeah, tell me about that. What are some of the organizations you volunteer for?
Well, currently I'm working on the United Way. It's called Women United. So every year they have big women's luncheon that kind of celebrates the resilience and the strength of women within Broward County specifically, because we're in South Florida.
Right.
So we have, this will be the 13th annual Magnolia Luncheon that'll be in.
And you've been involved for 13 years?
I've not been involved for 13 years, no, but I'm on the planning committee for that.
Okay.
So I'm fortunate to meet a lot of other wonderful women that are professionals in this space and different, not just law, for example.
Right.
Started sending out my emails today. I'm going to be a table host, so I'll,
Yeah.
invite some other women that I know that can come and kind of sit at our table and just make an impact that way. We've done that. We've done other things with Broward Partnership. I've reached out to them to maybe contribute with the homeless community. I'm somewhat new to South Florida, so I'm just kind of getting my feet beneath me.
Oh, you're from Nashville originally, right?
Well, I moved from Nashville to there, but I grew up in New York. But yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Great.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned nonprofit work that the firm sponsors too. Yeah. Have you been involved in that, Emily?
So I have done some nonprofit work in the South Florida community that focuses on human trafficking.
Okay.
That we had an event a couple weeks ago, the Women's Fund of Miami, who does a lot of work in human trafficking, domestic abuse space. And we helped to host, it was basically a legal networking mixer event that they bring the judiciary together and the Maple community. And so our group, as part of Ackerman, helped to sponsor that event, which is, there's another great way to raise our profile.
Oh, you could point. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then I sit on the leadership team for women in Ediscovery.
Oh, right.
The director of charity.
Okay.
I love that because
That's amazing.
in my, kind of in my wheelhouse, and because I have a long history of volunteerism.
That's awesome.
But it's a wonderful organization. I'm going to be Karen's hype woman. She's also the newly appointed director of the Miami chapter. And then you guys,
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, that's wonderful. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Oh, why?
I've always had an Android. I remember when iPhones first came out and people would stand in line down the mall. They needed their phone fixed, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So when I got my first smartphone, I was like, let's try an Android, and I stuck with it.
She's a green bubble.
I am.
Teams or Zoom?
Teams.
Copilot or Gemini?
Copilot.
Yeah, I'd say Copilot is a
Manual review or AI assist?
AI.
AI all day.
All day, every day. Dark mode or light mode?
Light.
Oh, wow. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, early night owl.
Oh, wow.
A little early.
What time? How early are we talking?
5:15 and run 3 miles.
Every morning?
Almost.
Let's see here. Cloud storage or on-prem?
Oh, cloud.
Wow, you're really loving the cloud.
Because you can access it anywhere. So hit that
Keyboard shortcuts or mouse?
Mouse.
mouse. I can't remember the keyboard.
Working in silence or with background music?
Music.
Music.
Wow, okay. I know that you guys are on a leg of your tour here, so appreciate you stopping by while you're in Dallas.
We had a great time.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and stay tuned for the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.